Took a big swig of water because it's going to be a spicy one. Hello, boys and girls. Welcome back to another edition of the All Aboard the Train podcast. Could you imagine if I had some cheesy, like intro where I'm just like pointing at the camera? I actually used to have an intro for a different channel that I'll actually talk about in a little bit. Maybe push you guys to broaden your horizons in the world of yours truly. My name is Rodney. If you already knew that, thank you so much for coming back and watching another video, another podcast, another ep, where things are starting to, like I said, it's going to get spicy, heat up. Now, look, if you're not in my Discord, you're missing out on an extravagant party with Raider Nation. Every 5 minutes, we were talking about the playoff games. We were talking about everything. We're talking about Ben Johnson and Pete Carroll and Brian Flores and Robert Saleh. And are we going to hire Deon Sanders? It's an insane shit show in the Discord in every possible positive way. So join the link in the description. We got like 15 members a couple days ago. It was crazy. Join the link in the description. Discord, it's free. And in the Discord, there's a lot of excitement going around Ben Johnson potentially being the next head coach of the Raiders. I've discussed that on this channel. There are more reports coming out about it left and right. And where there's smoke, there's fire. We understand that, right? And in the Discord, I've been actively trying to not say anything about Ben Johnson in a positive way. Because as a Raider fan, when you've been doing this as long as I have, when you've been watching since as long as you can remember, I'm 26, for anyone that's wondering, and that'll be important in the podcast later. You start to think that there is a world in which the Raiders are cursed. And you don't want to jinx anything, and you don't want to say something's going to happen, especially when it feels like it might happen, and then it doesn't happen. Cliff Kingsbury. I sat right here. I think I faced this direction, and I was holding the microphone, and I put the sunglasses on because I thought Cliff Kingsbury was going to be the next head coach, the next offensive coordinator, because they announced that he was. Not the Raiders, but Schefter and Rappaport and all that. And I said, we just assembled the coaching Avengers, and then he was not hired, and it was Getsy, and it was a nightmare. So until Ben Johnson is at the podium, or we've announced it on Twitter, he's the next head coach, or Schefter comes out and says, no, he's legit the coach, he signed on a dotted line, it's 6 years, $90 million, I'm going to actively try to pretend as though Ben Johnson doesn't exist, except on this channel, because every whisper and every report coming out of Raiders reporters, Ian Rappaport, Adam Schefter, Schultz, Pelissero, Palmer, all these guys, on every single app you use, are basically indicating that the coaching search for the Las Vegas Raiders have come down to two candidates. Those two candidates being Ben Johnson and Pete Carroll. Ben Johnson being the primary preliminary target. We've heard the word enamored thrown around a lot these last few days. Pete Carroll being the backup. Now, I said to somebody, I forget who this was, this is a far cry from a year and a half ago, or whenever we hired Antonio Pierce a year ago, from him being our primary target to Pete Carroll now being our backup option. A former Super Bowl champion head coach, probably Hall of Famer, is now our number 2 option. And look, I'm trying not to get too excited, but the position that we're in right now, just from an organizational standpoint, like, this is awesome. Told you it was going to be a spicy one. I need to tell you a couple things. Thing one, I mentioned I have another channel, ALLaBorde Productions. I have 2 loves in this life. Sports, well, I love music too, but it's not about music. Sports and movies. And on this channel, ALLaBorde Productions, where we just passed 1,000 subscribers, we react to and watch movies and TV shows, scary movies and action thrillers and comedies and romance and everything. We react to it. Here's a little clip.
But I'm smarter by at least 2 standard deviations.
Shut up.
Unlikable character.
Oh! Oh no! Wow, did I not expect that? Holy shit. Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay.
If you like what you see there, go hit the subscribe button. Show some support. If you love movies, if you like me, if you just want to support the kid following his dreams of becoming, a YouTuber full time, we got this channel rocking and rolling. Let's get the other one rocking and rolling. Go subscribe over there. ALLaBorde Productions. Also, Patreon.com/AllAlbordeRaiders. Raiders. If you're interested in signing up for that at the $5 tier, you get your name at the end of the credits, you get videos early, you get exclusive content. If you upgrade that, you get ad-free content and a YouTube series where I discuss how I built this channel from the ground up, blah, blah, blah. Oops, my phone's going off. That's all there. Link in the description below to join the Patreon. This feels like we actually have a chance to start pushing things in the right direction. And all reports lead to the reason that's happening being Tom Brady. Now, I've discussed Tom Brady joining our ownership group in deep length on this channel from the time it was announced like 2 years ago. I made videos about him playing for us before he was our owner. That's how long we've been doing this thing here. By the way, hit that like button and comment stuff too. Forgot to say that in the beginning. Does help. And I think the vast majority of people early on in the Tom Brady of it all, upset. The Tuck rule. This is the Patriot way. He shouldn't be wearing silver and black. That's not how a Raider looks. And time and again, I've called those people moronic idiots, for lack of a better clever term. And the more we've heard of Tom Brady's willingness to be a part of the front office and his influence on getting certain players, getting rid of certain pieces on the staff, getting interviews for people that we never would have had without him, more and more people are starting to become fans of Tom Brady being part of the ownership team. Now, the people who are like, but the Tuck rule, and then I would say, I don't care about that. And then their comeback would be, oh, you're just too young. You don't know what it's like. People just say that when they don't have a good counter to what you're saying. Oh, but you don't remember. You weren't watching the game, sonny. Here's what I do know. Tom Brady is the best football player to touch God's green. Like it, lump it, make your minds up to it. It is what it is, right? He is now calling the shots in the front office. I'm calling him secretly the president of football operations. And it's so funny how this time last year, I would say it was probably 80-20 negative ideas toward Tom Brady becoming a part of this front office. And now it's probably 90-10 the other way. Which just goes to show you, and I feel like I'm teaching a seminar right now. This just goes to show you that you need to take a deep breath before you start giving your hot takes about the state of the Raiders. Aiden O'Connell is this, and Tom Brady is that, and AP is John Madden. I've done it on this channel. Now, I'm giving my opinion, and I'm trying to entertain you, so there's a give and a take there. But we need to look at all the facts before we garner our opinions. Because Albert Breer, insider, all over the place, NFL Network, Sports Illustrated, Bleacher Report, reported that Ben Johnson had 3 interviews lined up. 3. Patriots, Bears, Jags. Quarterback in place, quarterback in place, quarterback in place. And it wasn't until Tom Brady got a hold of him and his agent, and Tom Brady convinced Ben Johnson and his agent, give me an hour of your time on Zoom. You will not be disappointed. Now, there's no guarantee that Ben Johnson's going to be the next Kyle Shanahan. But if we hire him and it all falls apart and Ben Johnson stinks, we cannot go revisionist history. We should have never hired him. We should have went with Pete Carroll. Nobody want every single head coaching vacant team last year and this year wanted this guy. This was the next version of Sean McVay. And now because of Tom Brady, not only did we get an interview with him, but where there's smoke, there's fire. All roads and whispers and rumors, not from what I heard, I don't hear anything, I don't have sources, are shining the light on Ben Johnson becoming the next head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. It's one thing for Brady to get him in the room. It's another for him to not let him leave. That's Brady. This isn't the Patriot way. This isn't the Raider way. This is the Brady way. It's a little bit of Tampa. It's a little bit of Michigan. It's a little bit of the voting booth, the broadcast booth. It's a little bit of the Patriots, a little bit of Raider Nation, just win, baby. And we've got functionality. Now you got to hire the right guys. And again, like I said, Pete Carroll being the backup option is a far, far cry from us handing the keys of the castle to Antonio Pierce and Tom Telesco. Two guys who I thought would be good and who I rooted for. I'll root for anybody, especially now with Tom Brady in the mix. So all that to say, do I think Ben Johnson is going to be the next head coach? Because there's let me pull up the tweet here. The tweet was from Vinny Bonsignor, who was the beat writer of the year. Congrats, Vinny. He tweeted today, January 13th, a lot of things lining up and pointing to Ben Johnson to the Raiders. Nothing surprises me in this league, though. Some really good coaches have a chance to change things when they interview. But, ... Now, the last thing there, some really good coaches have a chance to change things when they interview. What I'm gathering from that is that Ben Johnson has already made his mind up. I'm going to the Raiders. And the only thing that would stop us from hiring Ben Johnson is if we get blown away by another interview we have lined up. Robert Saleh, Brian Flores, Van Joseph, whoever else we have to interview, Todd Monken. Doesn't that seem like that? Let me read it again. A lot of things lining up and pointing to Ben Johnson to the Raiders. Nothing surprises me in this league, though. Some really good coaches have a chance to change things when they interview. But doesn't that seem like Ben Johnson wants to go to the Raiders want him. They're going to interview the rest of these guys. And barring some miracle, Mike Tomlin-esque moment where Brian Flores blows us away, Ben Johnson's going to be our next head coach. That's what I'm gathering from that, which is pretty insane. So if I had to put money on it, like I said before, I wouldn't because I'd be too afraid to jinx it. Do I believe in that stuff? Right now I do, sure. And I don't want to be hurt again. Been doing this too long. But this really does feel different in a tangible way. It's one thing where like AP's wearing the Raider windbreaker and the sunglasses and Max Crosby's dancing in practice and you're like, this feels different. Ooh, they're having fun again. Make the Raiders fun again. But like there's nothing to really grab onto. Like they didn't win any games, right? They didn't make any changes. There aren't reports of like Cliff Kingsbury taking the job. We had to settle for Getsy because they couldn't get Cliff Kingsbury. This is like, no. Brady is the reason that Ben Johnson interviewed with us, and not only is he interviewing with us, it seems like he might have picked us. That doesn't typically happen with bad organizations. And if Tom Brady went to the Browns ownership, or he went to the Jags ownership, or the Patriots ownership, he probably could have done the same thing for them. It's Tom Brady. But there absolutely is an aspect of the shield, the silver and black, the history of the organization, and the division that we're in. Now, a lot of people said, well, it's the division so hard. Why would anybody want to join this division? I said the right head coaching candidate is going to be a sicko that wants to take on Sean Payton and Andy Reid and Jim Harbaugh. Now, the Chargers and the Broncos didn't look that good in the playoffs. They don't look like they're exactly Super Bowl contenders, although this is probably the worst version that they're going to be, assuming they draft correctly. That's a big assumption. So we got to get this thing rocking and rolling. Now, when Ben Johnson, if he gets hired, not when, if he gets hired, I wanted to talk about this a little because similarly with everybody hates Brady, everybody loves Brady. When he gets hired, most, if not all, of Raider Nation is going to be celebrating. We've called this guy a genius, the next McVay, the next Shanahan, right? So I just want to prepare you for a situation where we roll into next year with a quarterback that you did not think we could have or should have been doing or should have had in place at this moment in time. If he goes to Brady, I think I can win games with Kirk Cousins. I think I can win games with Sam Darnold or Aiden O'Connell. And we roll into the season with that, and we draft Abdul Carter or Genti or McMillan, and we roll into the season with that. I do not want to hear instantaneous complaining about the quarterback situation because we got to trust what Ben Johnson's going to do. We can't call him a genius, but then go, oh, Sam Darnold's our quarterback. What are we doing? We got to play the hand we're dealt. If we want to trade up for Sanders or Ward or whatever, and we can't do it, we can't do it. Do not feel the need to give instantaneous hyperbolic takes, especially when you've got guys like Brady and Ben Johnson potentially calling the shots now. Because I could see it right now, the world in which Aiden O'Connell's our starting quarterback next year. And it'll be interesting to see how many people are immediately like, Ben Johnson doesn't know what he's doing, or how many people are like, you know what, maybe Aiden O'Connell's not bad. If Ben Johnson believes in him, now I'm going to believe in him. Because it's very easy to feel slightly a certain way, and then when something extreme happens, you're like, oh, yep, I'm on this side. Like the Justin Herbert of it all. People either love him or hate him. I'm like leaning, don't love, think he's a little overrated, and then when he throws 4 picks, I'm like, I told you, fraud. You know, is he a fraud? No. But that's the way the world works. And it's happening with Sam Darnold right now. I guarantee you, Kevin O'Connell is going to get none of the blame for how bad the Vikings played that game, which was a home game for the Vikings. It was 51-49 Vikings fans. And now Sam Darnold, who was going to dethrone J.J. McCarthy and just take this job, has a bad game, a really bad game against the Detroit Lions, the consensus best team in football, in the biggest game of their historic franchise in Detroit, and he has a bad game. Well, I guess you're not allowed to have a bad game in the most pressure-packed situation you've ever played in your entire life. And then in Sam Darnold's first career playoff game, where the pressure might have gotten to him, he has another not great game where he's got sacked 9 times, 7 of them probably weren't his fault. Hey, Kevin O'Connell, maybe run the football once or twice. So now Sam Darnold, who threw for almost 5,000 yards and 35 touchdowns and won 14 games, stinks, and you wouldn't give him the vet minimum. That's all I've been hearing now. Here's what I would do. If Sam Darnold is a free agent, I would offer him $35 million a year for 3 years. 3 years, $35 million. What's the math on that? 105? Something like that? 30, math, tough. 3 years, $35 million a year. Now, I said that in my Discord, and people went at me like I suggested that Jim Plunkett should be our quarterback. Like, whatever age he is now or would have been. Is he alive? Don't think so. I think he is. I don't know. Tua Tagovailoa makes $52 million a year. Derek Carr makes $37.5. If you gave Sam Darnold a 3-year contract valued at $35 million a year, that would rank him 17th in terms of annual average salary for quarterbacks. He would be the last quarterback on that list until the low 40s, where Geno Smith is there, making 25. It's not my fault what the price is to pay now for decent quarterback play. And yes, Dak Prescott makes too much money, and Deshaun Watson makes too much money. And Sam Darnold's only done it 1 year. And that's another thing I've been hearing. Really? 1 year with a great offensive, arsenal of weapons and a young hotshot head coach? As if Sam Darnold was always supposed to win 14 games. Did anybody think before the season, when the Vikings said, we're going to roll with a $10 million a year on 1-year contract Sam Darnold, that they were going to make the playoffs? Fast forward 5 months, they won 14 games, and in any other year, they would have been the 1 seed in the NFC. And 2 bad games is going to convince you to not give him the 17th highest annual per year quarterback salary? He's strong. He's athletic. He's a gunslinger. But this isn't Sam Darnold with Joe Schmo calling plays. This isn't Gardner Minshew on 15 a year with Luke Getsy calling plays. This would be Sam Darnold, 4th pick in the draft or whatever he was in 2018, with Ben Johnson calling plays. And I've seen people say, well, he couldn't win 14 games with this roster. Of course not. But you have to cultivate a winning culture. Brock Bowers and DJ Glaze and whoever we draft this year and JPJ need to feel what it's like to play in crunch time in meaningful games, to have a chance to make the playoffs. And Sam Darnold could at least get you competent to above average quarterback play on a league average salary quarterback-wise. And if the Minnesota Vikings tag him, he will be tagged for $41 million. So what I'm offering is 3 years at less than the franchise tag. So I posed a question to everybody watching. Would you rather trade the 6th pick in the draft for J.J. McCarthy or give Sam Darnold 3 years at $35 million a year? I would rather give the money to Sam Darnold, because there is absolutely no guarantee that J.J. McCarthy will ever be good enough to lead a franchise to 14 wins. Maybe he will. The odds are less than 50%, and they're probably less than 40%. You know what I just saw? Sam Darnold do it this year with my own eyes. And again, he's got a stacked offense, as if they were always supposed to win 14 games. If they won 7 games with Sam Darnold, people would be like, yep, that's about right. But he wins 14 games and has 2 bad games, and all of a sudden he's back to the Jets version of himself. By the way, that's the team he played for before he learned under Kyle Shanahan for the year. The Jets. Without Garrett Wilson or Breece Hall. With Todd Bowles coaching him the first time. And Adam Gase. Now, look, I would trade for J.J. McCarthy maybe, sure. But if those are my 2 options, give the 6th pick, give Abdul Carter or Genti or McMillan or Travis Hunter for J.J., who's just some rookie floating on the ether. We have no idea how good he's going to be. Literally no clue. Or Sam Darnold, who just won 14 games. And all roads are pointing to Ben Johnson maybe being a better offensive mind than Kevin O'Connell, who just had a really bad game in the playoffs. And everyone will just dunk on Sam Darnold. And Sam Darnold, and he sucks and he's terrible. And Kevin O'Connell will be none the wiser. No blame on him for calling pass play after pass play and getting his quarterback destroyed. And on this whole thing that I want to talk about, especially with the Tom Brady of it all, is that there was a report a couple days ago that Deon was interested in coaching the Raiders. And people ran with that and said, could the Raiders hire Deon Sanders? And I said, guys, can you listen to the report? The report said, Deon interested in Raiders. Nowhere did it say that Raiders are interested in Deon. And then a couple days later, the reports came out that the Raiders have 0 interest in Deon Sanders. Now, with Tom Brady not being there, would I lie to you and say Mark Davis isn't the type of person to hire that person? No, he would absolutely hire Deon Sanders a couple years ago. But again, because Tom Brady is a big boy, he knows how to win at the highest level, and he wants this Raiders team to be taken seriously, and he wants this Raiders team to be at the heights of the Raiders from the 70s and 80s and part of the 90s. We shut that shit down instantly, 0 interest. And now look who might hire him. The Dallas Cowboys. And it was very interesting because when McCarthy got fired, I thought, Ben Johnson might be headed to the Cowboys. And then an hour later, it was Deon and Jerry Jones had been talking. Very interesting. We're a big boy franchise now. At least that's what it seems like for the first couple weeks of Tom Brady being involved in some of the ownership and some of the front office. And I said it before and I'll say it again. It's awesome. It is absolutely awesome to feel like we have a chance to hire the hottest head coaching candidates in Sean McVay. It's an interesting time to be a Raider fan, and I'm excited, but again, I don't want to get my hopes up. So I need to hear from you in the comments. What is your vibe? What is your temperature gauge on Ben Johnson potentially being our next head coach? I will celebrate like no other. I might do a shirtless podcast. Probably won't do that because it'll be cold in here. If we go Pete Carroll, I wouldn't hate that either, man. I know he's older, he's longer in the tooth, but again, we have to cultivate a winning culture, and he will do that. He will be able to locate potentially our next great franchise quarterback and then ride off into the sunset 4 years after. But that's plan B. Plan C, I don't know what plan C is. Hopefully we never get there. All that to say, Benny boy, if you're having trouble sleeping, game planning for Jaden Daniels, I guess you wouldn't be game planning for Bobby Wagner, and you're watching this video, just know that we would really like to have you be our next head coach. I would like that a lot. And there's a lot of Raider fans that have been hurt. So if you decide to take this job, we will love you forever if you're half as good as we think you could be. So that was my message to Ben Johnson. If you got any messages for Ben Johnson or anybody else, or messages for me, comment below. Let me know your thoughts. Join the Patreon, link is in the description below. Join the Discord, link is in the description below. Check out my other channel, ALLaBorde Productions. The link will be probably in the description below too. Please be sure to subscribe. It's free. I don't know charges you. I love you guys. And I'll see you next time.